Started. Hi Sabrina, how's it going?
Hi, Ollie. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Very excited to chat with you today. We're gonna do a little bit of like a poem tag back and forth. I have a couple poems of yours that I would be super excited to hear. But read whatever is exciting to you. I feel like it's like we have these books that we've written, some of them a long time ago. And sometimes that work doesn't always resonate with us in our present selves. But okay, just to kick us off, my first question is, how's your life been? What have you been up to? What's your life look like these days?
My life looks very different than it has in a long time. I have a baby, so there's that. I'm a full mom, which is wild, and yeah, I'm like in love. I'm experiencing a whole new self. Yes, um, so that is pretty wild. Oh,
Yeah,
hold on.
just like because I don't have kids, like what's it like to be a parent? Do you like it? I guess you can't say that
I
you
like
don't,
it.
that
Yeah,
you
I
can't
know
say
I
that you
do
don't
like
like
it
it.
though.
Oh my
I
gosh.
I feel like I have like a rare angel child who sleeps through the night. So I will like I think that part of it is really helpful. I'm not sleep deprived, which is nice. And she's cool, so I like that. She's very funny. And she likes to eat. So I feel like I'm lucky in that sense that like she sleeps and she eats. She yells a lot. That part of it I'm getting used to, just like a lot of random yelling. And the dog is also adjusting to that aspect of things. But other than that, I'd say we're doing good. I like it.
Awesome.
It's
I
fun.
love that. I feel like sleeping and eating are like some of the main things I've heard.
Yeah. Also, like for us as humans, like for me, I'm like, am I sleeping and eating? Good. Then I'm good to go as well. So yeah,
Yes. Okay, I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so
yeah.
glad to hear that. Um, cool. Let's just jump right into doing poems.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people watching this know who you are, but I'll point out a couple of cool things from your bio that I did not know that you had been up
Okay.
to, in case other people did not know that you had been up to. The things that I knew you had been up to are your books. The things I did not know that you've been up to is like all this sports stuff.
I know.
Um, how is that? I see ESPNW, work for the government of Canada, Sport Check, the Olympics. Like what? How is it like doing this sports stuff? Like as a poet, it
No,
says at the end of your bio that you like sports,
I
or
do.
like one sports. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I like sports. But it's weird. Like you just kind of get asked to do things, and they're like, "Hey, the Toronto Blue Jays want you to write a baseball poem. Is that a thing you can do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like baseball. Like, sure, let's go." And then you just like weirdly say, it's like you kind of get asked weird things. Like, so the Olympics one was the wildest because what had happened was they had already Sport Trek had set up these like national commercial campaign for the Olympics, and then only the Canadian women were winning medals. And the campaign did not highlight the women in advance. So they had to pivot last minute and have like a spoken word person come in because the original spoken word man who had pre-recorded all of the poems for the campaign didn't want a woman to read any of his work. Like wouldn't or not I should he wouldn't let anyone else read
Oh,
his
I
work
see. I
but
see.
himself. And they needed a voice that wasn't male to celebrate. So the Olympians. So they called me in last minute. It was wild though. I had to like write it in 24 hours and then record it the next day for it to like go on air 3 days later. Yeah.
I love that. Talk about like new shit, like
You
it's
know?
just like new shit for the Olympics. Um,
And also just
exciting.
exciting that you're like, oh, this is the reason you had to pivot because the only medals were being like unexpectedly being won, not
Yes.
by the people they thought they were going to win them. So I thought that was cool. Cool to be a
I
part of
love
that.
that. I love that these women winning like drove this man out of a job. No, I'm just kidding. I want
No,
whoever the original poet was to have success too. I don't even know who it was. But I
he's
am glad that
great.
the
And
woman
like
crushed it.
yeah, it was just a nice, like, a good reason to pivot for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that. I also love thinking of like poetry and sports as like things that can go together and don't have to
Hmm.
be opposites of one another. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Awesome. I'm gonna kick us off with a poem. Um,
Yeah.
after that, I have a poem I'd love to hear from you. If there's anything about my poem that makes you think, oh, I should do this other poem, then do a different poem. Do whatever you want. We love to see it. I'm gonna kick us off with like a brand new poem because I love brand new
Ooh,
work. So this is a first draft, so I don't know if it sucks, whatever. We're not gonna worry about it. Hello to everyone on the live stream. Now you get to see this brand new poem. Um, all right, here we go. When the feeling of the sun on my skin is outlawed, when the light itself is something they own, and each leaf must pay its own tax, when the sun hails down its expensive glint, and we shiver in the darkness, all the world a grave, when a ship is built to frack Pluto, when the 750 billionaires rename the Earth after their children, who will not survive because, of course, the Earth will not survive, will they still think they have chosen the correct God? Yesterday I stood in my kitchen, my bare chest incandescent in the afternoon shine, and I was softly illegal then, privately illicit, my own joy tariffed against me, and I crossed a border I have crossed 1,000 times, and I dipped my toes into its sweet river of luminescence, and I glowed, the light outlining each of my eyelashes, and I felt exactly how what I imagine religious people mean when they say the word soul. Of course, we are all born into blood. We are all born slick and smothered, creatures whose first breath is nothing more than a guess at life, and we are owed nothing but crave everything. What must I pay to be seen as a person again? What is my debt for being born and hungering for the light against my chest? How feral is my domesticity? What threat am I as I respect the sun's good work and flick the light switches down in the afternoon, to slink about with nothing but her as my guide, to sit in the shade of the tree the kitchen counter makes, or to sprawl on the floor in a warmth I did not pay for? Is that what is so threatening then? Not that I have joy, but that I have not had to buy it. Is that why you are shielding the eyes of your children who do not know that you have broken your promise to give them the world, when all you will give them is a wound, that first curdling breath, nothing but a mouthful of blood? And even while I look at them and they are laughing, I know that they are already dead. Yeah, just starting us off with something real cheery. No, I just feel like the world is coming so hard for trans people right now. And I'm
yeah.
like, if trans people, all we want to do is just like sit in the sunshine and like eat cookies and like go on planes sometimes. Um, all right, awesome. Sabrina, take it away. Read me a poem. Do you know which one you want to read or do you want my suggestion? Up to you.
Okay, I love that first of all. Warmth you did not buy. Come on. Come on. Um, Thank you for a new poem. That I loved that. Um, okay, I tagged the poem that you sent me that you want to hear.
I love it. Okay, I want to get the reason why I love this
So
poem
yeah,
and my I just feel like the last time I saw you, I don't know where we were at. We were on some Zoom thing together.
yeah.
And you'd been reading these poems about your mother, and like they felt kindred to me, of course, because my dad is dead and had a long illness and blah 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 blah. But those poems also just struck me as having this like beautiful urgency in language. And that's why I'm so excited to hear some of these poems. All right, take it away.
Okay, so this one is aortic aneurysm, which is kind of like the first official poem of I Love You Coming Back. Okay. Immediately, I thought I've seen an episode of Grey's Anatomy about this. So I Google aortic aneurysm, thoracic, not abdominal, 5.6 centimeters, surgical procedures, open repair versus endovascular, stent versus graft, risks, common complications. Can you stop an aortic aneurysm from growing? Can you stop an aortic aneurysm from growing holistically? What happens if a 5.6 centimeter thoracic aortic aneurysm ruptures? Why are all the aortic aneurysm statistics only documenting men? Statistics for the survival rate of women who just turned 60 last November with a 5.6 centimeter thoracic aortic aneurysm. We hang up the phone. I ask Siri, which season of Grey's Anatomy has the episode with the aortic aneurysm where the doctors did everything they could? Siri asks me to repeat myself. I say, I am not ready for my mother to die. Siri responds, I don't understand the question.
Ugh, awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it. Uh, cool,
For
cool, cool.
like a side note on it, like we if we could like asterisk it. So my
Please.
mom had her surgery, like big surgery last year, and or yeah, last year, and she essentially had her aorta replaced from her shoulder to her kidney, like the entire thing, which is
Oh my gosh.
insane. She has, first of all, the craziest scar I've ever seen. It's so badass. I love it so much. I always ask her to show people, and she doesn't like it, but I think it's so cool. But yeah, and it was successful. It worked. The surgery, like she's good on that front. But so that's just like a nice side note for everyone to know, but also very crazy that they can replace your entire aorta. What a
Yes.
wild
Well, and
world we
who
live
knew
in.
it was that big? You know?
Yeah, well, she had like they had found like another small aneurysm once they
Um,
opened her up, so they had to like go further than
wow,
they thought, which is wild. Yeah.
that is wild. I'm so glad that she's doing good. You know?
Yeah.
That is like great to hear. Medicine is wild. Science is wild. How can they do
Yeah.
that?
Science
I
is
don't
wild.
know. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So kind of like thinking about this poem in contrast of like some of your other poems, and I'm thinking particularly of that big poem about depression that got so famous.
Yeah.
Um, when I was doing one of these live streams with Neil too, we started getting talking about that like particular period of time. And I feel like we're in a very different period of time for like spoken word and poetry right now. Um, but I would love to know, like, from your perspective, like you got like pretty famous like pretty fast, you know?
Yeah.
What was that like for you? How did it feel? How do you feel about it now? Tell me about it.
Yeah. Okay, so I think to touch on that, it was a moment in time for sure, where like we are not in that moment anymore. I think it lasted like a good couple of years, but it did like eclipse us, I want to say, like that moment. You know what I mean? Like it was like we could like not stare at the sun for a minute, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, yeah, we can like use our eyes again. You know what I mean? So that was wild. And it was interesting because there was like such a conversation around poetry then that now I feel like doesn't exist in the same context. Like we don't really like it almost went backwards a little bit to being like again this like weird literary thing that is like inaccessible. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like an accessible thing where for that minute it felt like you could just like turn on your computer and watch 20 poems at any given time. Like great good poems. And I mean obviously there's like a social media. TikTok has like done a wild thing, which is like change. And I don't know, I follow a bunch of poets on Instagram who like just make their own videos and post their own content, which wasn't really what was happening at the time we were coming up. Like it was very much like you did a performance and it was recorded somewhere. We weren't like sitting in our living rooms. So that's pretty cool. I think that that was like a cool time. I do miss the amount of open mics there were in those days, that you can just go somewhere. Now I feel like everything is very screen based. So I think that's like what I loved about that moment was that it was very like electric, but you had to be there in person to like really participate in it. Like, you could watch things, but to participate in that moment, you had to physically be there, where I think now that's not the case. And I do miss that. But I also, there's like such a benefit to being able to sit in my house and have this happen. So, like the chicken or the egg, but I'll take it. I'll take both. But it was a good moment, and it was wild. It was weird to like be known like, oh, you're the depression girl, and you're like, yeah, I am. Like, cool. Hi, I'm Sabrina. Nice to meet you. Like I would get that a lot, and just be like, yep. Or people would be like, I know your face, but I don't know from where. And you're like, I don't really want to tell you where you know my face from. Just let you think I'm like cool. Like yeah, I did get a lot of that for a minute, but now it's kind of different. I feel like it's quieted down a bunch, and I don't know. I think a small thing for me was that like I became very uncomfortable during the pandemic with like online stuff. Like it just freaked me out to post, and I'm still trying to reconcile like how I want. Like it was different when you were performing on a stage and reading poems and someone was recording you and that was going up. It feels for me, I have more, I don't know, like insecurity and discomfort just like setting it up myself and having to edit it myself and look at myself and like watch myself read over and over and then post it, it feels difficult for me to do that. So I think I'm so grateful that how it happened was how it happened. And I'm still reconciling how to like exist as a poet online, as a spoken word poet, especially now.
That is so real and resonates with me a lot. And I think a lot about this like particular age that we're in now. And like I don't want to say like social media 100% sucks, you know. And also like being the artistic director, the performer, the editor, the camera person used to be like different jobs. Those would be like
Yeah.
different people who did those jobs. And there's something also to me that's just very intuitive about like, I'm the performer. Like, I write the poem, I perform the poem. Someone else does that. And like, then you get to experience the poem in your body instead of having the poem constantly mediated through a screen. Potentially an ironic thing to say as we're doing this thing where all of our poems are being mediated through a screen. But yeah, I totally feel that. I totally feel that. And it was just like such a not that poetry isn't magical now, and especially like in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, like there's cool stuff happening. There's a little bit of a revitalization happening. But I just think about those years from like, I don't know, like 2012 to like 2016 or
Yeah.
whatever. Ah, just magic. Not, you know,
Yeah.
like you had to be there. You had to have been
Yeah.
there.
I would always describe it as like, in like a cartoon when someone like picks up a rock and they're like, oh, there's a whole world under this rock. That's what it felt like. Like it just felt like you were like going into like a little hole and like entering a world that people didn't know about. And you got to like be a secret part of the club. You knew the
Yes.
knock to get in kind of thing.
Yeah, you knew the secret knock.
Yeah.
That's so real. And then when the world started to care about slam, because before that, it's like slam was like, I don't know, like competitive bowling, like no offense to competitive bowlers. You know what I mean? But like it wasn't like a thing. It was like a thing that like I really enjoyed to do because I was like a weird, sad, the college
Yeah.
student. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it blew up and now I think there are still tons of people who are really interested in poetry, interested in slam, but it doesn't have quite the same energy as it did.
No,
Um,
that also though, you said competitive bowling, and I saw a tweet literally this morning that was just like going bowling with people who are good at bowling is so like bizarre because it's like, why are you good at this? Nobody should be good at this. That made me laugh because I'm not like a great bowler, and that I always think that when I go with people, I'm like, we're all bad at this, right? Like we can agree to all be bad at this. Like,
I
okay,
agree. Yeah, if you're secretly good at bowling, GTFO.
yeah,
Um,
pretend you're not.
yes.
Throw a gutter ball for the rest of us,
Yes, throws a bone.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So along that
yeah,
vein, Depression and Other Magic Trips was published 8 years ago. Um,
yeah.
how do you feel about the book now? How's your relationship with it? Do you still love it? Do you like prefer not to read from it when you get the chance? Like how do you feel about that work now?
Um, it's like nostalgic for me, I think, in a way. Yeah, I think I definitely had a period. I think what became difficult was like it's kind of like having a one-hit wonder song where like people know you for something and then they expect everything you do to sound like that or be like that. And I think where I am now in my like as a writer is very different than where I was. Like I was very sad and just writing to like survive the sadness and like understand the sadness and navigate it then where now with like years of therapy and just like being a person out loud, like it's just different. You write writing is different. And plus once you're like, when you're secretly writing things and nobody knows, it's one, dynamic. And then because you're being like paid to write a book is a whole different dynamic. It becomes like your job in ways that it obviously wasn't before. And you have a weird relationship with it, you know what I mean? And so I think in a lot of ways, Depression and Other Magic Tricks like is a soft spot in my heart because those poems didn't think they would see the world. Like they never thought they would meet the world. You know what I mean? They just kind of lived in like these notebooks right here. And the other poems knew they were going to the party. You know what I mean? They could like do their hair and take a shower, where Depression and Other Magic poems were like, oh my God, how did I get here? I hope you like me, And so there's like there's like a sweetness to them, I feel, a tenderness that exists for them for me. that I think I'll always have. But I do think some poems I read them and I'm like, oh, like, why did I like that boy so much to write this many poems? You know what I mean? Like it's like I didn't like him that much. He definitely didn't like me. Like why did I write all these poems? But then I'm like, oh, they weren't even the poems weren't, you know, but they're not about the boy. They're about the me that wrote the poems. Let's be honest, you know. Or like the depression is like I'm not the mascot for depression. I think I can like accept that about myself now. You know what I mean? Where then it very much felt like that.
Yeah, I love that too, especially I don't know, I think about that moment in time as well and like being that person. I love the phrase that you just said, the mascot for depression. You know, and like how can you be the mascot for depression for your entire life? What if you want to get better? What if you want
Yeah.
to, like be happy or write about something else? Yeah, I also think it's like if when we're writing, it's like as writers, you have to change, you have to grow, you have to evolve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think those poems too that you write without you said it such a smart way. They didn't know they were going to the party. Those poems that have that kind of like honesty and like journal feeling almost,
Yeah.
that's special. And once the poems know about the party, you can't go back. Doesn't mean that the new poems aren't like good. They just have a different quality, you know?
Yeah, they're like a little more self-aware. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like in college, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, they're in college. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I love it. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
read another poem. I'm gonna have you read another
Yeah.
poem, and then we're gonna talk about all the stuff that's going on in our lives. And then we'll be done, and it's gonna have been a wonderful hour. Uh, all right. So the next poem I'm gonna read is from my newest book, Where I Dry the Flowers. I'm gonna read something that's not a bummer because I feel like a lot of my poems that I've been writing lately are like totally bummers. Which I think is like a normal response to being under like growingly fascist government in the United States. I think that's pretty normal to have a little bit of like bad feelings about that.
Yeah.
But I do think that at least for me, it's important to also like have hope and not like go into despair because if you are despairing, you're not going to be very effective at like resisting this regime. And I just think like the good things are just as true as the bad things. There's a lot of bad things, there are a lot of good things. They're both true. So, here's a poem about a time when something was like better than I thought it might be. My grandmother, goddess of the canned peach, who could slit a fish lengthwise with one smooth motion. My grandmother, who promised me her sewing machine if I promised I wouldn't cry when she died. My grandmother, who pan-fried blueberry pancakes in hot oil, who always said fingers were made before forks and ate with her hands whenever she wanted. My grandmother, who, on seeing my sister's bikini, stripped down to her bra and rode around the campground on her bike yelling, "My bra covers more than your swimsuit does," and laughing and laughing and laughing. My grandmother, who birthed half a dozen boys that voted red my entire life, who stayed silent while they screamed Bible verses at my cousin, who I hadn't seen in years because after I came out, I just couldn't bring myself to come back. But now I'm here, and my grandmother, who can no longer remember who her son is, my grandmother, who is only conscious for an hour at a time, my grandmother, who is dying, smiles like she isn't when she sees me and I am once again hers. And she grabs my hand on the couch and squeezes and shakes it a little, like she's trying to settle down the flour in a measuring cup, and tells me that she loves me. Her eyes like the lake in her front yard, her love floating up like a blanket of lily pads, and she never says the word gay. But she does say, I made some mistakes with your cousin Henry. She never says yay, but she does say, how is Natalie doing? She never says gay, but she does say special, and I miss you, and I want you to know I have always loved you. She is dying, quickly now, in that slow, sudden way, and any moment I will get a call and cancel something or another to go see her body burnt or unburnt, gentle, still. When I was young, she told me not to cry for her when she dies. I promised then that I wouldn't cry. but I didn't know then who I would grow up to be, and I didn't know then how much she would love me anyway. I
Oh,
know, and sometimes it's better than you think. Awesome. Okay, cool. Sabrina, I'd love to hear a poem. The one I want is
yeah.
a story. My father moves to another country, and there's no way to say I'm sorry if you aren't, but you
You
also
got it.
whatever you want.
Yeah. I just want to say my newest collection starts with a lot of poems from my grandmother dying. So I do love my grandmother, just period. Okay. Yeah, this is fun because as all relationships, but essentially familial ones, um, we ebb and flow. Sometimes we're very happy with those people and sometimes we're not. And this poem was from a time when I was not getting along with my father, and we have ebbed and flowed since then. And who's to say if it's more relatable now than it has been in the last few years? Who's to say? So here's a story. My father moves to another country, and there's no way to say I'm sorry if you aren't. It's the night before we arrive in San Francisco, which is so far my favorite night of our 3 week trip. We are somewhere on the coast at a Holiday Inn. Our room is standard: two beds, a TV, a mini fridge. We're each sprawled on our own bed atop the covers. You have a conference call with the office in China for work on our vacation, so we are staying in for the night. An acceptable consolation, you toss me a 20 to raid the vending machine. While I stock up on chocolate bars, I think to myself, maybe this isn't so bad. While waiting for your call to come in, we catch a marathon of the Golden Girls, and gently into the evening, like two kettles of boiling water, we are laughing at all the same parts. It's tomorrow, and we are in San Francisco finally after a day of being holed up in your car. We're sitting at a patio table at Fisherman's Wharf. Sea salt breeze, I keep licking my lips. We have a whole crab on the table. You played Grim Reaper and picked him out on the way to our seats. I'm also tipsy from splitting this bottle of white wine with you. Of course, this is very cool of you to do, split a bottle of wine with me since I'm 2 months shy of my 21st birthday. I don't realize dinner with you now is much easier than it will be in the future. Looking back, that trip was one of our better ones, if not the best. I bought my leather jacket on that trip. It's been my main choice in weather protection for the past 7 years. It's weird how a jacket can be more reliable than a father.
Love that last line. Love it.
Yeah.
I also didn't realize until now that I like accidentally picked two poems in which you talk about like watching TV. Um,
Oh,
so
yeah. Yeah.
I didn't do it on purpose. I'm not trying to
Oh,
make you out
that's
to be as
okay.
someone who writes a lot about
I
TV.
like TV. That's okay. I'm actually rewatching New Girl right now, which if you're not a New Girl fan,
I've never seen
get
it.
into it.
Should
Oh
I?
my goodness, it's so fun. If you just want to giggle, watch New Girl.
Okay,
Yeah,
good. I
it's really
will.
fun.
I will because all I want these days is a
Yeah,
giggle.
simple.
Some people are watching
Yeah,
serious TV out here, and I'm like, I feel like my whole life is a serious TV. I cannot witness someone else having a problem on, like, a serious violent problem on TV.
yeah. No, I feel that, and hence my partner and I started New Girl. We were watching Say Nothing, which is like a fantastic show about like the IRA and stuff. But in Ireland, it's very good, but it was intense, and so we like about 6 episodes in, we're like, let's also start New Girl to like lighten things up, and then we got like 4 seasons into New Girl, and we're like, we should finish Say Nothing. We should finish that serious one, so we can just watch this in a funny way. But yeah, it's been really nice. But I like TV. TV's fun.
I love that. We've been watching much trashier TV. Have you ever seen Love is Blind?
Yes, I am somewhat of a connoisseur in like love-based reality TV shows. So
Okay,
I can
then you're gonna get
recommend.
this. We've accidentally being like homos who don't care about straight people at all. Me and my partner have watched so much like straight reality TV, but the last season of Love is Blind was filmed in Minneapolis, and so it's like the
Hmm.
whole time we're watching it, we're like, pause, look at the things, look at that street corner, see if we've been there. And it was so fun, and everybody with their Minnesotan accents was like incredibly so fun and so charming to me. To watch on Love is Blind, and we got a lot of like back channel gossip of everything as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say you must have like known someone who knew someone who knew someone there. You
Yes,
were there. Yeah,
yes.
that's fun.
That just yeah, really fun, really fun. Okay, talking about TV, I guess this is a little segue. Have you ever seen the show The 100?
I haven't.
It is very
I know
intense.
it's like, yeah, I know it's like an intense like survival kind
Yes.
of thing. I never watched it though. Maybe I
I watched
should.
several seasons of it and I really enjoyed it, but I noticed that my entire like nervous system was like getting messed up by like being in a state of like fight or flight from like
Yeah,
empathizing too hard with the characters, so I don't watch it anymore. But moving on to a different
fair enough.
The 100. Let's talk about your
Yes.
workshop. Tell me about
Yeah,
it.
workshop. Okay, so I always like I thought might as well do a workshop called the 100 because every time I do a workshop, I'm telling people about how I do this thing called the 100. It like comes up all the time. It's just become like it's like okay, I read this thing once where it was like if you need to make a sand castle, like you have to start with a sandbox. And I was like, oh, that's poems. Like that's what a poem is, right? Like your poem is your castle, and like you have to have drafts. You have to have like things that sand that's essentially going to fall away and like live in your box, you know? But then the flip of that is like sometimes you have some really good sand that just like isn't in the castle. You know what I mean? And so that's like what the 100 kind of became. I just like in most of my notebooks, I'll just somewhere in the notebook, at least once, sometimes twice, I'll just have like 1 to 100 listed, and I'll just have the lines that like, you know, my orphan lines that have nowhere to go, that I'm like, this is a bar. It just doesn't have a poem to exist in. And so that became that. And then when I do edit or I am writing, sometimes, you know, like if we are writing all the time, you kind of are only in so many headspaces as a person. So your 100 eventually is going to have like a good 20 lines that go together or like orbit the same thought or idea or image or whatever. And so that kind of became apparent to me when I would edit, and I'd be like, oh, look at all these lines in my 100 that fit this one idea that I've just been like percolating on for months. And so yeah, it became this thing of like, oh, that's just where the good sand goes. And eventually I can like build from that and kind of piece things together. And so I always tell people in my workshops, like, you know, if you write drafts and you hate the whole draft, but you like one line, like start a 100 with that line and like throw your lines, or like you hear someone say a quote or you hear a word you like, you know, somebody calls something magnificent and you're like, I never use the word magnificent, throw it on your 100, you know. And so it just became this like kind of thing I always use, like a resource for my ideas and like my good stuff. And so yeah, I thought, okay, you know what, I think it's time we just like make a workshop out of this and like build a 100 and focus more on like the building of the process and less on like the finished outcome of the poem.
I totally love that, especially like the amount of times that I write a draft or like one of my students writes a draft and you're like, well, the heart of the poem is here. It's 3/4 of the way through. Um, I don't want to tell you to cut 3/4 of your poem, although sometimes I do because that's just where the poem is. But you know, it's like then taking that line and saving it somewhere else and taking the pressure off of the original poem to grow to
Yeah,
meet that line, you know, because if you've written something excellent and it just doesn't fit, then fit it somewhere else.
exactly.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Or
I
give
also
it permission to kind of like stand on its own for a second and not, yeah, like not have to build every line to meet that one, but let that one kind of set the bar for another thing.
yeah, I love that. And I would not be surprised if in the process of, you know, in the intentional process of creating a 100 list, um, there's going to be a lot of good poems that accidentally get created along the way, you know?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, very fruitful. I love that. I also love the idea of, you know, like writing towards something that's not immediately a perfect, finished, polished draft. Because I think a lot of people get stuck on that. And then in
Yeah.
the effort to make this perfect draft, what is it? The quote is perfection is the enemy of the good or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, then people end up getting stuck. I love it. I love this. I love this. It sounds great.
Yeah.
It starts April 1st.
Yeah.
You still have slots left? Can people sign up still?
Yeah. There are still slots.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I love it.
And it's Thursdays and Sundays, I believe. So if you're like a weeknight person, great. If you're a weekend person, also great.
I love it. People have had great things to say about your workshops all the time. So trust everybody else. Go take this workshop. Um, all right. I have it next in my list to talk about all the stuff I'm doing. Okay, I'll talk about the
Yes,
stuff I'm doing.
tell us.
And then after that, I want to know about anything else you want to promote. So workshops I'm doing, I will be doing a 30-30, which is 30 poems in 30 days. You are going to write 30 poems in 30 days. It's through writers.com. There are like maybe just a couple of spots left. So if you want to be a part of that, go do it. It's a great time. You'll get tons of prompts. Um, through Button starting September 7th. That's a while away, but I'll be teaching a class called Good Grief, Writing Poems About Loss, which I'm very excited about. And I do want to mention you don't have to have like a close daddy in your life, daddy being short for dead person, in your life to be a part of this workshop. I think that grief and loss comes into our life in many ways, so don't feel like you have to kill someone just to join the course. But you can sign up for that now too. Starts in the fall, September 7th. And then sometime over the summer, probably July, I'll be teaching a form class through writers.com. If anybody watching this wants to keep in touch with me, I just started a newsletter. So sign up for my newsletter. You'll get exactly one newsletter a month, maybe sometimes one newsletter every 2 months, depending on how busy I am. Um,
That's real.
Yes, so you won't be spammed, but that's one of the best ways to keep in touch with me too, as I'm not quitting social media, but I am reevaluating my relationship to the platforms run by people who don't like me and my people. So I am, we're working through it. Sign up for my workshop. All right, that's mostly what I got going on right now. Oh wait, no, I have another cool thing going on right now, which is that I am tournament directing the Midwest Poetry Mashup again for the third time
Ooh.
this year. And it is April 25th through 26th in Minneapolis at Open Book. So if you want to go do like see a good old fashioned poetry slam tournament, come check it out. Tickets are cheap. They're on sale. Midwest Poetry Mashup. Go there. It's going to be a great time. All right. Sabrina, is there anything else going on in your life that you want to talk about, you want to promote?
Honestly, no. I just have been reading a lot of really good books, so I'm just gonna like shout out a few really great books that I've been reading. That's cool.
I love it.
There is a poet, Chimwamwe Undi, who has a book, Scientific Marvel, which is a chef's kiss of a book, which I love. I would highly recommend picking that collection up. And I don't know if you've read The Kissing of Kissing by Hannah Emerson, but that book rocked me, and I think everyone should read that collection. It is like incredible, incredible, incredible. So I would definitely recommend that one as well. And then I guess like the other thing I'm getting really into audiobooks because I have to use my hands a lot more than I did before with the baby. And so audiobooks have been a big thing. So if you follow me anywhere on the internet and are like, this audiobook's great, because some are not as good as others, like the reading, and it's a very hit or miss game to play. So I feel like if anyone has like really great recommendations on a lot of audiobooks to listen to, I would love that. If you want to like shoot me a DM or something.
I love that.
Put that out there.
What's your preferred audiobook genre?
That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place. I have to switch things up all the time, which is like a thing about me is that I get bored very easily. I'm kind of like always all over the place. So right now I'm listening to All Fours by Miranda July,
Mm.
and it's weird, and I like it so far. I'm like 10 chapters in at max, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I like
Nice.
Miranda July in general though, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I learned about her in one of my visual art classes.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
It's been a long time. That's
But I
so
also did get into like rom-coms this year, which I never have read a rom-com before this year. And I did like a little bit of a deep dive into them because I have friends that like them, and they're fun to listen to. Like watching a show with your eyes closed. Some
um
profound.
I love that. I recently got into a genre that I guess it's not that far of a stretch for me. But I got top surgery in late January and like while I was healing from surgery, I got all of these different books to read and I just like took a chance on one of those like cheap paperback, like romances. Um,
Mhm.
but it's gay smut. That's what it is. It's gay smut. And now I've read like 10 of them and I can't stop. I can't stop reading historical gay smut. It's a great
Me
time. It's a great time. Highly recommend.
too.
Um, I also want to say that's so true about audiobooks. Like no offense to people reading audiobooks, but I can tell within the first 10 seconds whether or not someone's reading style is just gonna like drive me up a wall. Um,
100%, yeah.
and so many of them do. My recommendation, I don't have a specific book for you, although there are many audiobooks I've listened to that I really liked. Is I found that like audiobooks that are like non-fiction read by the author tend to be like cream of the crop.
Yep.
So,
I would agree that a read by the author is my preferred choice. Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
Awesome. I love it. All right. So, what's the best way for people to keep in touch with what's going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this is still my handle because I'm not going to change it now, but I am at badass_sab anywhere on the internet. So you can find me like that. I feel like Instagram is probably Instagram, Facebook, I'm a millennial, so find me on Instagram. For better or worse, I am. And although it is wild to be like, I'm 37. But yeah, find me on Instagram. I'm not 100 yet, so I still do have TikTok, but I don't post on it. So if you post on it, cool, send me your videos and I'll watch them. But if you need to get a hold of me, please refer to Instagram. Um, and I do check that thing. And that's it, really.
Awesome. I love it. All right, then in closing, I'm going to read a poem. What I want for your final poem, if you have one, is a poem where you've used your 100 process. So I'll do a poem, you'll close us out with a wonderful poem, and we'll go forth into the rest of our Tuesday. I didn't really pick a poem. Oops.
I
Um,
love that.
let's see. I don't feel like being a bummer right now. Um, so I'm not gonna be a bummer. I'm gonna do I guess it's kind of happy. Let's see. All right. Robert Frost would have been a camping gay. The sunset is a feral orange, the berries puckered against the tree line like our fresh-picked acne scabs. If nature was anything, they'd have to be trans. How many times have we all lost ourselves in the woods and emerged as someone worthy of a new name? All hail the camping gaze, the salty pink of our corneas as we blink through the fall wind. All hail the dildo stashed in the glove box like a gun, the teeming black of the asphalt as we rush towards a clean lake, the waves drinking our bodies up like a body of water is in fact a body, a queer body, hungry for our touch. I'm in love with the trees, and I think they love me back. I think a river is the gayest shit ever. The frogs cheer me on from the banks. Smoke from the fire is a deep, translucent blessing, reminding me that we deserve to be here too. We deserve to be here too. We deserve to be here too. We deserve to laugh, flinging ourselves into water. We are not just built for shame and fear and waiting our turn. This world is ours too. And if God did not make us in his image, we'll just have to make God in ours. Awesome. All right.
Wow.
Now we're gonna get to see the process in motion. Here's a poem that you've written using your the 100. You like to say 100, not like the TV show.
Yeah, I always call it the 100.
I love it.
I like honestly.
It's nice. It's nice. Okay, so
It
here
actually originally started as just being titled and like I would just start with and then it became 100. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so now we're gonna get to see a poem in closing that uses the 100 strategy. Awesome. Take it away.
I think you'll probably be able to tell too that this is like a stitched together poem, if you will. And I'll just say I do have an audio special that is essentially a book, but it doesn't exist in book form. It's just like an hour straight audio of original poems called Chaotic Good that you can listen to on Audible, and that's where this is from. Okay. So this poem is called I'm Sorry, My Therapist is on Vacation in Europe. I keep composing tweets and saving them to drafts. Did you know the Queen owns all the swans in England? And I own exactly 8 bras, but really I only wear 3 of them. Bought a pair of baggy jeans today and I'm still depressed. Make it make sense. Just wished on a star for a more reliable hype man. Why do I want to share these? Is it weird that I sit cross-legged in front of my full-length mirror to apply my makeup? Because once my friend Mac came to visit, and when they saw me do it, they said, "Ooh, girl, you are chaotic." And one time in Texas, Rachel said, "You are like the definition of chaotic good." And maybe I am, I think to myself while I debate turquoise or cobalt blue eyeliner. Maybe I should embrace the chaos, post the tweets. Or maybe it's just summer and freedom feels carbonated. Rhinestone stickers below both eyes, white lace below oversized t shirt. Alone, I say my name out loud over and over. Sabrina, Sabrina, rabbit heart, orange lifesaver. Sabrina, elastic. Sabrina, moonstone. Sabrina, satin pink shoes on point in pirouette, a song about devotion. But who am I without the right words? And who am I trying to fool but myself? Sewing my heart onto my sleeve like it hasn't always been open door, swing door, revolving door, the space between hello and goodbye, sometimes no longer than a pack of matches. I haven't dreamt of her since she left. I dream I am at weddings of the boys who broke my heart. And sometimes I watch the girls suntanning on the roof from my wall of windows. I wish I had more friends who live in my neighborhood, but I am grateful to Emma, who will ride her bike to me to go on a night walk for vegan gelato, gooseberry and grapefruit, raspberry, ginger, and lime. I devour decadence, even own a pair of coupe glasses for champagne cocktails and a small glass jar of saffron. Meanwhile, an entire season is shimmying itself on by, and I still don't have a couch. At least alone in my apartment is a chance to hit the high note, spin another song about devotion, your love only wind now. Imagine a world like that. I am learning to be a kind mirror, how to pretend to kiss to the thought of falling in love again. I'd rather smoke weed on my balcony, slide a skinny bat beneath between nails green as the smoke. And maybe this is the summer I'll spend eye level with the birds learning how to glide. And if that is what it is, then let me slip into my mouth another square of chocolate. Let me draft and not post one more chaotically good tweet. I want to be friends with you on the internet. I fill my bathtub to the brim and shrink a little each time.
Awesome. Ugh, I love it. I love it. Um, cool. So if you want to write a cool poem like that,
Yeah.
go join Sabrina's workshop. Um, Start soon. So get on it.
Yeah.
Um, awesome. All right. So when I'm running workshops and classes, I normally do like a go around question and then a closeout question. My kind of closeout question for this conversation, I remember once I was talking about how I had bought a crystal cut decanter for my Listerine. Um, yes, and we chatted about it a little bit. What I want to know, just to close out this conversation, is what's one small thing in your life that brings you a small joy every day?
Oh, it's so good. There's so many good ones. Okay. Okay, a new one is that I recently got a butter bell. Do you know what a butter bell is? It changed my life. It's the most glamorous thing about my life. Every day, it's like the little thing that you put the water in and then you put your soft butter and you leave it on the counter. I splurged and got like a marble butter bell, and it really upgrades my day-to-day life.
I love that so much. That classy, classy.
Right? I never
Yeah.
thought I'd be cool enough to have one, but now that I have one, I'm like, no, I am. It's very cool.
Yes, I feel like there are so many things in life that are like not even like inherently expensive, but I think of as like a fancy thing and I'm like, oh, well, I'm not a fancy person, so I can't have that. Um, but now I have them. Like we have a little cut crystal thing that has sugar cubes in it, and we have a little pair of like antique claw tongs
Oh, the tongs. Yeah.
that you can get to get the sugar out, and it's like the whole thing costs, I don't know, 15 bucks. Like not it's not
Yeah.
fancy, but it makes me feel
Nope.
like I could like ring a little bell and I should be speaking with a British accent. I love
1000%.
it.
Yeah.
I love it. So
Yeah.
I guess that's accidentally mine too. That brings me so much joy to have a tiny little thing
Okay.
of sugar cubes. Oh, sugar cubes. Who decided to put the sugar into cubes? I don't know, but it's so cute
And
and
why did we
fun.
ever stop? Why don't we
Right?
all use the sugar? I love the sugar cubes.
That's real. Why do we stop? We
Do
don't
you
have
put
to
them on
stop.
your tongue and let them dissolve sometime?
So good. So
Good.
good. I love it. Awesome. Well, Sabrina, this has been such a joy. I
Yes.
hope your workshop is awesome. I hope your life is awesome. And have a
Same.
great time until I see you next.
Yes. Until I see you next.
All right, see ya.